Hi, and thank you so much for clicking on this video. My name is Tamara if you're new, and I'm a homeschooling mom of three. I've been homeschooling for 6 years, or this going into will be my 6th year, and I wanted to share in this video some of the mistakes that I think new homeschoolers should avoid. Now, full disclosure, I have made all of these mistakes, which is why I was able to come up with this list so quickly. So getting right into it, number one, the first mistake you should avoid is avoid not doing your own research. The main reason behind this is you always want to check for yourself what is going on with the homeschool community or homeschool laws in your state. So anytime someone makes a recommendation to me or posts something about what's new in the homeschooling community, I always take it as this is good information. Let me verify it. So trust but verify. So always, always, always do your own research. Number two, avoid trying to recreate public school at home. When I first started homeschooling, this was a mistake that I made. I thought, oh wow, it'd be so easy to just follow along with the public school system and what they're doing, and that way if homeschooling doesn't work out or if we end up sending our kids to public school, they'll already be used to it. The problem with that is our life doesn't really reflect the needs that a public school has. So for example, if the schedule says we need to spend 45 minutes on a topic for kindergartners, that doesn't work when your child gets it in 10 minutes, or vice versa. If your child struggles and the public school schedule says do it in 45 minutes, but my kid needs an hour and 15 to get it. So don't try to emulate public schools at home. Do your own thing there. Number three, avoid rushing to purchase curriculum sets that you see. And you will see a lot. You'll get a lot of recommendations for homeschool curriculum from looking at Pinterest, looking at Instagram and Facebook. And sometimes it really is great, and I'm thankful for the recommendations, but also sometimes what works for one family just simply doesn't work for ours. One of the main mistakes I made was trying to buy a very literature-focused curriculum for a child who doesn't want to read or is resistant to reading certain types of materials. So that was not a good decision on my part. Definitely avoid doing that. Get to know your kid, find out what works for them and the way they want to be taught, and then make your curriculum decisions based on what is going to fulfill the need that your child has and the requirements based on your research of your state laws. Number four, avoid comparisons. And this is advice for if you have more than one child, and also avoid comparisons for what you see online. Anytime someone is posting or sharing something about their life, most often it's going to be in the best light possible or in the best view possible. So they're showing you homeschooling at its best, not always at its worst. And also, they're different. People that you see online are different from you. So do not compare their best with your worst, or do not compare your children against each other. One child's strength might be another child's weakness, and if you compare someone's strengths to another person's weakness, of course it's not going to be the same. It's not going to make them feel great, and it's going to honestly make you feel like you're not doing great. One of the major differences between my older two is one is very type A and one is very type B. So if I try to compare the two of them and make them try to meet the same standard, one of them is going to be extremely, extremely frustrated. So if at all possible, avoid comparisons. Number five, avoid isolation. So it's very easy when you are at home with your kids to get in a routine where you're not leaving the house. I have done it. I sometimes enjoy it. But you do need to make that effort to reach out to people, even during these times where you might be on lockdown or quarantine or things aren't open and operating as they normally are. Reach out to people using social media. Reach out through video chats. However you can get in touch with someone, just for your own personal sanity, just to have a conversation with someone who isn't related to you or you didn't give birth to, or whatever, someone you're not responsible for. Reach out and just talk to someone about non-school, non-mom things, just to have that companion. So yeah, that's important. Very important, especially for the adults. The kids, I think, My kids especially I don't think they notice when we spend multiple days in the house because they just, I don't know, they have so much to do. But for yourself, get out there and talk to other people. Number 6, avoid eliminating alone time for yourself. And this kind of goes hand in hand with number 5. Also make sure that you are making time for yourself as the homeschooler, as the teacher, as the mother, as the wife, whatever. You make time to put all those things on pause so that you can go and do something for yourself, whether it's reading or bathing or shopping, whatever those things are. I said bathing as though we don't bathe. You know what I mean? Like spa day or something for yourself at home. Just make time for you. It's important, very important. And don't apologize for it. Put your phone on Do Not Disturb if you have to. And you'll see why in a second. I have another point about that. Number 7, avoid forgetting your why. As in, why are you doing this? Because a lot of times when we lose motivation or we feel like, man, this just isn't working, it helps to reflect on why you started in the first place. Another why that I think it's important to remember is when you're explaining a topic to your kid for them to learn, whether it's math or social studies or anything, explain to them why it's important. Don't forget to tell them why this matters. Why should they learn it? That's so important, and it really helps, especially for me when I'm teaching my kids math. One example I can think of is when I was teaching my kid division. It doesn't help to just put a worksheet in front of her and say, memorize it. It does help for me to say to her, think of it as if you're dividing treats amongst your friends at a play date. That she cares about. So teach it in such a way that makes them understand why it matters. Number 8, avoid thinking that your kid will fall behind because there is no fall behind. When you're teaching a child individually, they're going to learn at their pace and they're going to be on track on their own track. And so if you notice that your child is struggling with multiplication, but the kid down the street who goes to private school is getting it quickly, there could be multiple reasons for that. It's not simply about being homeschool versus private school or homeschool versus public school. Your kid might struggle with division or multiplication if they were in that setting as well. Kids learn at their own pace. So do not fall for the fall behind, woe is me mindset. Just give them a chance, give them time. You might have to adjust the curriculum. You might have to adjust how much time you spend on it. Or they may just not be ready. They just might not be ready for it. And then 2 weeks from now, they will, all of a sudden, something will have clicked and they'll get it. So avoid the fall behind mentality. Your kids are doing fine. Don't put too much pressure on them. Just be consistent and they'll get it. Number 9, avoid not asking for help. So this is sort of in line with isolation, but when I was speaking about isolation earlier, that was more for like a social sanity point of view and perspective. The asking for help that I'm talking about comes from just reaching out to other homeschoolers to say, hey, what worked for you? What were some of your best practices? But once you get that information, keep in mind number 1, which was do your own research. So, for example, I am getting ready to go into homeschooling a middle schooler for the first time. I never thought that I would actually get to this point. I really thought we were just going to homeschool for elementary school until we got ourselves settled where we were going to be, and then she'd be going to public school. Well, that didn't happen. And so now we're on the track of, oh boy, didn't have middle school in mind. Now I need to get prepared for it. Let me reach out to some folks that have already gone through homeschooling middle schoolers to find out what to expect, what works, what doesn't work. And then at the same time, do my own research, avoid comparing her and falling, for the fall behind trap, and then just making the best decision for us as we get ready to move forward. So I still to this day reach out to people that I know have been really successful, but I also keep in mind like my family's different. So if what they're suggesting isn't going to work for us, then I just, thank them for their advice, or take a small piece of advice from this family, a piece from that family, and a piece from my own experience and put it together and mix up our own new routine that's going to work best for us. So avoid not asking for help, but also continue to do your own research. And the last thing, and this might sound funny to some people, but it seriously almost derailed my homeschool experience in the early years, and that is avoid too much socialization. And that might sound like it's contradictory in terms of, avoiding isolation. But one thing that happened to me early on was, as my family, you know, realized that I was staying home with the kids, I was always getting calls. There would always be phone calls from my parents, from my friends, from people who just wanted to chat during the day. And I was being too social, so much so that we weren't getting any actual work done. No one was learning because we were socializing so much. And so you really have to strike a balance. And that really would be the theme of this entire video is find your balance, do everything in moderation, do your own research, and enjoy the ride. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. Also, let me know if you're a homeschooler, what mistakes would you add to this list to avoid? And if you're brand new, welcome. I hope you have a fantastic year, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.